Good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining us for News 3 at 6. It is one of the tightest Tuesday races we've seen in a primary for a while.
We've got team coverage tonight, including News 3's Angela Bettis looking at voter turnout. And we have a team of reporters following the governor's race. News 3's political reporter Jessica Arp kicks off our coverage. Jess?
Well, Scott Walker clearly hoping for a big night in the county where he is currently the executive. His campaign says they are hopeful but always expected a, quote, enthusiastic race. Scott Walker is spending the day across the state, but starting in voting in his home city of Wauwatosa. Then he did a three-city swing across the state to Green Bay, Wausau, and ultimately Fitchburg, where he visited volunteers who are making calls to get out the vote on his behalf. These visits are the last of a 35-city tour across the state since last Thursday, targeting the out-state vote, people who might be less familiar with Walker than those in his home area of Milwaukee. Those are the voters who Walker might rely on tonight to get him past the finish line. High turnout in areas of Milwaukee, Waukesha, Racine, and Kenosha County, among others, who are familiar with and support the current county executive, who has been touting the work he's done on Milwaukee County finances. Now, the campaign says they do feel they have support outstate, but obviously this is their stronghold, so they are looking for high turnout in areas. We're hearing Waukesha County turnout might be in the range of 65% tonight, so turnout in these counties is certainly going to be something to watch. Now we send it over to David Douglas, who is with the Newman campaign.
Mark Newman spent his day trying to do everything he could to get out the vote, voting himself this morning at about 8 o'clock this morning before doing a couple radio interviews, and then spending a lot of his time today actually on the telephone himself, calling voters, saying, please go vote, and of course, vote for me. Tells me the folks on the other end of the line were actually a little surprised to hear from him. Newman has actually, as he says, written the book about how to fix Wisconsin. He calls it Wisconsin Taxpayers First, a bold plan, but will it be enough? That really is the question tonight. If there's a win here, it will definitely be a tight one. When you look back at his most recent race, a 1998 Senate race against Russ Feingold, and you look at the margin of victory Feingold had, it was tight, just over 2%. But outside of Milwaukee County, Newman was leading the state by 30,000 votes. Inside of Milwaukee County, Feingold won it by about 65,000 votes. And when you look at it being that tight, this is the place we will be watching tonight all night long. Let's go now to Mark Lovicott, who is with Tom Barrett in Oshkosh.
In downtown Oshkosh, this is where the Barrett campaign will be ending a day-long tour of the state. You might remember Tom Barrett voted early a few weeks ago. He wanted to use today, primary day, to really kickstart his campaign to the general election, which is on November 2nd. Barrett, of course, in a very different situation compared to his counterparts, the Republican side. Of course, Barrett no doubt expected to be the clear Democratic winner tonight in the primary. Barrett, in fact, has already announced his campaign schedule for tomorrow, and he will kick off that campaign in Green Bay here in the Fox Valley. You might be wondering, why are we in the Fox Valley? We're in Oshkosh tonight. Barrett's home is Milwaukee. Well, the Barrett campaign says this is a very important area for their campaign. This is an area that's traditionally a swing area, and there are also a number of independent voters in this area as well. So that is why they were here tonight, and they will be starting their campaign in the Fox Valley tomorrow. We will be here tonight providing coverage all night long, and we will, of course, have reaction once the results start coming in. Reporting in Oshkosh, I'm Mark Lovicott. Eric and Susan will throw it back to you.
All right, Mark, thanks. And our team coverage continues now in McFarland with News 3's Angela Bettis.
Angela, record turnout predicted. Everybody talking about that today, but what are we seeing so far tonight?
Well, Susan, it is good at this point. You know, state election officials believe that turnout could be record-breaking, as high as 28%. And while the numbers aren't there just yet, they are good. Here at McFarland, we were talking with election officials, and they tell us that, in fact, it's very good. They've had a lot of new registrations today, and they say you get a few new registrations during a primary, but not so many like they've had. They said that's definitely better than they expected. In fact, we spoke with one voter around 5:30 who said during a presidential election year, he's usually around voter number 1,200, right around that 5:30 time. Today he was 800, which was much better than a primary, but not quite as good as that presidential election. And that's really what we're hearing from all over the News 3 viewing area. Columbia and Sauk County telling us the exact same things. They're not quite sure if they're going to get to those record-breaking numbers, but they say the polls have been busy all day long, and they definitely expect it to be larger than a normal primary turnout. Here here in Dane County. Bob Olson tells me that right around 4 o'clock, turnout was right around 12%. So we still have a little bit to get there. We still have a couple of hours, though, until the polls close. One interesting thing, though, that we are hearing is that some Democrats are voting on that Republican side, hoping that the weaker candidate gets the win. That's one of the things that we're hearing. So that's been an interesting thing to hear from later on tonight. And again, not quite sure if we're going to hit that 28%, but the polls are definitely busier today than they normally are during a primary. Back to you guys.
Angela Bettis live in McFarland tonight. Angela, thank you very much.